If it's artsy, I do it. I've had people like, could you draw it? I'm like, I could, but I don't want to. I don't want to entertain them at all. But it looked like part man, part wolf, part bear, and part pig or hog. If you took all of those and mashed it into an entity, its skin was just rotting and disgusting yellow, and its teeth were just razor sharp. They were all crooked and nasty, but razor sharp. And then its eyes were like a lizard, but they were blood red. And it had a black cloak on too. And as I'm screaming and I'm looking at it with eyes just, trying to beg for mercy, when I started screaming again, I saw the demon's head go back and its eyes became euphoric. And I could tell it was high on my pain. It was high on my pain. And that I come to know was the second level of torments of hell, is what the demons do to you while you're there. Things I can't even describe. They're that horrible. Things unimaginable they do to you.
Did you see another level?
Yes, then it's amazing. It just blows my mind now when I think back to this experience, that just when you think it can't get any worse, you realize you've only just begun. You've only just begun. Then, now I realize that this was the Lord revealing this to me one at a time. If I had to experience it all at once, I don't think I would have survived. I just don't see how I could have. So he was allowing me to see this in these layers, if you will. In that moment, it was as if the demons disappeared and the flames of hell, they were still there, obviously, and everything was still there, but it was felt at much less capacity because there was a new reality that I needed to grasp. And that new reality for me was the word forever. Up until that moment, I just took that concept of eternity with a grain of salt. And I had always figured I'll understand it in that day. In that day, I'm with, the Lord. I'll get it. I just can't get it. Everything's temporal here. So how could I get it? And that's another reason why I know this was not a dream, because in that moment, I understood eternity perfectly. I understood it simply. Just like we get 1 + 1 = 2 here, I understood eternity. And the level of doom that came over me, I knew that I was going to be in this place forever and ever and ever and ever, with no end at all. After I'd been there for 1 trillion years, I was only just beginning. And I would scream and scream and scream, but I had to scream at an amplitude that was pleasing to hell. Because if I didn't, the demons would come back and do even worse things to me. And that reality of eternity was so foreboding. My heart became like an empty nothingness. I knew for a fact I deserved to be here. I knew at that moment where I was. I'm in hell. And suddenly that realization of, again, this was the Lord showing me what it's like to be a person who rejected him, because I knew I rejected him my whole life. He reached out to me in so many different ways, through so many different people, all throughout my life, and I rejected him every single time without just cause. I rejected him because I wanted to be God. I wanted what I wanted. My will be done, not your will, God. I don't want anything to do with this God, because I want to be God. And I deserve this. I was going to be here forever. These demons are insane with hatred. They're out of their minds with hatred. There's no bribing the demons. The only conversation you're having with the demon is screaming. That's your conversation with them while they cackle and laugh at you. They will mutilate you and use your body parts to beat on you with. Things, just unimaginable things. And I just knew this was my forever. There was no break. There was no pause. There was no rest. Not even for 1 second. No rest. None. Zero. Screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming for the ever and ever and ever and ever. And that reality of eternity, that was the third level of torments.
And then what?
Then God showed me the worst part about hell. I knew in that moment I would never see God again. And that was the fourth and final torment. And of all the torments of hell, nothing touches when you know you will never see the one who created you, who knew you intimately before he even spoke the universe into existence, who made you uniquely you and loves you for who you are. The one who spent your whole life offering you life and freedom and peace and purpose and a destiny in him that's eternal and goes on forever. And I spent my whole life believing in anyone or anything but him. Everything else goes, but no Jesus. No. And I would never see God again. And when that reality came over me, I know now that I could not take that. I could not handle that. I was just done. I couldn't. I was about to lose my mind. And the last thing I remembered feeling was this. I didn't hear words from the Lord, but I felt the essence of what he wanted me to know. This is what happens to people who reject the Lord. There's no other place for you to go. Don't be offended, my Catholic brothers and sisters. I love you. There is no purgatory. There's no nirvana. There's no, well, you don't believe in God, but you don't really like Satan either, so here's your little happy place. No. He created us to be intimate with him forever. And intimacy in heaven is not like here on earth. Like I said, where the end of you is and where the start of God is, no one knows and no one will ever know. That's the intimacy. We are to be one in him and with him, including our entire existence. And that is the finality of his purpose for us. So when we reject him and I don't know how can people do that? How can people reject such love? God will not force people into heaven. He is a gentleman. He's inviting everyone, come. And if someone wants to refuse that in this life, then unfortunately, there's only one other place to be where God isn't. And that's where the fallen angels are and where they're inevitable end, the lake of fire, where death and hell belong. God does not want to see one person destroyed. Not one. And so, after that realization, just one last thing is after that realization, I remember opening my eyes. I was still laying on my side. I had not moved an inch. I simply opened my eyes and I was looking out my bedroom window and I was seeing the sunrise come up through the blinds. It wasn't waking up. I just opened my eyes, and now I'm not in hell anymore, and I'm looking out the blinds to the sunrise.
It wasn't easy for you coming out of that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, oh, his grace. Oh, his grace. How beautiful God's grace. Because I'd never experienced anything like that, right? And there was no warning there. Hey, Joel, by the way, you're scheduled for a visit to hell. You know, you might want to brace for impact. There's nothing. There I was, and there I wasn't. And now here I am. And I'm like, how do you even tell people? How do I tell people what I just saw? If it was a dream, I would have said, hey, hon, good morning. You won't believe this. I just had the worst dream unimaginable. But I am not going to degrade my experience to a dream. I was in spirit, and it was a spiritual experience. I was instantly there, and then I was instantly not there. And so I firstly do what I especially did at that time, and it's bottle it up, just internalize it. But it really began to hit me when, the next day or the next day or two, when I went to the grocery store. It was really like the first time I was in a public place and there were people all over, and I just stopped and I'm looking around at all these people. And I'm not looking at people. And still to this day, Julie, I can't look at people the same anymore. I can't. I'm standing there in the grocery store, and I'm like, how many of these people have no idea? They're just going about their life. They don't have a care in the world. And they have no idea that hell is waiting for them. And that's when my wife, like, Joel, and I kind of was like, oh, okay. That's when she began to notice, like, that was becoming different. I just had trouble. I really had trouble being around people after
for
that.
like a month, right? It took you a little bit of time to get back into the.
Yeah, it actually took about 4 years. I was dealing with it. I'd make myself go to work, but when I had to go somewhere, I went because I absolutely had to. And I didn't look at people. I just focus on what you're doing and just try to shove it down.
Joel, why do you think he showed you hell?
Because this little teeny existence called the universe, called length, width, height, and time, and space, and matter, this is not your ultimate reality or your reason and purpose for existing. This earth that we live on is like a classroom. This is one of the more, if not the, of all the eternal existences that there are. Believe me, when we say God is eternal, we have no idea. Wait till you're in his presence. He is so far beyond us, it's not even funny. And the earth realm and this physicality is a very low primitive form of existing. And the purpose of it is that we learn how to grow in our relationship with the Lord and grow in the Spirit. And so he showed me heaven, he showed me hell, and he showed me more things than this too. We just don't have time for it right now, because when he creates us with our own unique purposes. Some people are artsy fartsy and some people crunch numbers. We all have our gifts. We all have our reason.